Let me present myself. I'm Marija M, and I'm coming from OMI Biomedics based in Greece. And in this occasion, I would like to thank the organizers, Reform Academy, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak about biochemical and immunological biomarkers for the most common comorbid issues in children with autism. So let me share my screen. Is it now okay? Is it okay? No? Can you see my screen? Okay, great. Thank you very much. So we all know, let me minimize this. Okay. We all know that autism spectrum disorder is a complex neurodevelopment condition often accomplished by comorbidities including chronic neuroinflammation, immune dysregulation, genetic vulnerability, metabolic mitochondrial dysfunction. And if, let's say, 10-15 years ago, all scientists all around the world was talking if there is a comorbid issues that are connected with autism. Nowadays, in the last days, let's say last years, they are talking about finding the most appropriate protocol. It's not only questionable if there is a comorbid issues connected with autism, but the main topic is which protocol should be used and which therapy and therapies can be used in order to manage the comorbid issues and to make all clinical manifestation in patients with autism mild. So in this presentation, we will go through four, let's say, most common comorbid issues, biochemical and immunological issues, reviewing inflammatory markers and inflammatory markers in terms of related conditions with inflammatory markers, explaining link between autoimmune disease and diseases and autism spectrum disorder, and cytokine profiling. And all of those three groups will be in part of the immunological, inflammatory, and autoimmunity biomarkers. Also, we will go through biomarkers for and triggers for PANS-PANDAS cases, pediatric autoimmune neurological syndrome, connected or not connected with streptococcal infections, and that can very often be misleaded and misdiagnosed with autism as well, and also can be present in children with autism. And we can go inside the gastrointestinal tract problems in children with autism spectrum disorder, focusing on inflammatory bowel conditions and biomarkers. For those conditions, last but not least, we can go through mitochondrial dysfunction observed in children with autism. That is, let's say, one of the first comorbid issues and the triggers of autistic behavior, autistic-like behavior in the World Health Organization. So we will go through all of those biomarkers through real cases, including that we collected in the last 3 years, and those collected from 188 patients across the Balkan region. Age of those patients was between 2.5 and 18 years old. Most of them was male and less female patient. So we will go through those results. We will go through those the results for all biomarkers that we will cover today. So, first of all, let's start with immune system markers. So, definitely one of the definitions that are working definition for autism that is actually complex immunological, neuroimmunological condition that is accomplished with a lot of immune dysregulations. So we will go in this case to evaluate some of the biomarkers, including tumor necrosis factor alpha, including interleukins, especially interleukin 1b, 6 and 8. We can see the role of eosinophilic cationic protein and immune dysregulation in response, as well as autoimmunity through antinuclear antibodies level in the blood with children diagnosed with autism. So let's start. What is tumor necrosis factor? Actually, is cytokine, and it's type of the protein that actually in the body acts like a messenger for the immune system, and it plays a significant role in inflammation and immune responses. Elevated level of tumor necrosis factor alpha can be found in variety of diseases, including arthritis, diabetes, Crohn's disease, etc. Arthritis and diabetes is also comorbid issues that can be very often found in children with autism, and there is a lot of studies that found higher serum level of tumor necrosis factor alpha in children with autism compared to neurotypical controls. So also, as higher the concentration of tumor necrosis factor alpha in blood is, it's positively correlated with the severity of symptoms in autism spectrum disorder, according to Autism Behavior Checklist. In our cases, we found that 76% of the children have elevated tumor necrosis factor in the blood. So definitely immunological cytokine profiling identify tumor necrosis factor alpha as a key molecule dysregulated in autistic children correlated with autistic behavioral symptoms. Interleukins are also, especially 1b, 1 beta, 6 and 8 are also immune system markers that can be very often found elevated in children with autism. So let's see what's actually they are. Cytokines are key mediator. Cytokine interleukin 1 beta is a key mediator of inflammatory response. Essential for the host response and resistance to pathogens. Also, it's elevated during damage and chronic disease or acute tissue injuries. Interleukin 6 is also pro-inflammatory cytokines and anti-inflammatory myokines. In humans is encoded by IL-6 gene, and as well interleukin 8 is hematoattractant cytokine produced by a variety of tissues and blood cells. All of those cytokines, interleukins, are actually indicated that there is some kind of inflammation behind, and all of those interleukins are elevated in most of the situations where individuals are attacked by some kind of infections, and they're, let's say, responsible about behavioral response in people that are affected with some kind of acute inflammation. So you can see if we are not feeling well, all of us faced sometimes in our lives, some kind of infection or acute infection, virus or bacterial infection. The first symptoms that we appear is we don't want to communicate with people, we don't want to interact socially, we don't want to go event, we want to stay at home and in bed. And this is something that is going on as well with children affected with autism with elevated level of interleukins. So actually, if the elevated levels of interleukins are found in a blood level with children with autism, it needs to be, the analysis should be, let's say, go further to find the root cause of those elevated interleukins and properly managed by the physicians. The other biomarker for autoimmunity is antinuclear antibodies, and actually they're antibodies that are detected and they're connected with a lot of different types of autoimmune diseases like seronegative arthritis, type 1 diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis or celiac disease. And elevated level can be found in systematic lupus, erythematosus, and other autoimmune diseases. So in our cases, we saw that 27% of the children experienced elevated tumor necrosis factor alpha. This needs to be clinical investigation, should be go in other directions to see the root cause and of course to find appropriate clinical treatments according to the guidelines. So another one very often found biomarker that induce chronic immune system dysfunctioning is eosinophilic cationic protein. Is actually a ribonuclease which has been attributed with cytotoxicity, neurotoxic, fibrosis promoting, and immune regulatory functions. Elevated eosinophilic cationic protein can be found in patients with asthma, allergic rhinitis, atopic dermatitis or eczema, gastrointestinal disorders, some kind of infections, schizophrenia, or hypereosinophilic syndromes. So all of those are associated with diseases are associated with elevated eosinophilic cationic protein. In our study, we noticed that 84% of the children with autism actually experienced elevated level of eosinophilic cationic protein. So, let's focus on some very, let's say, clinical manifestation that can lead very often to mislead clinicians to give diagnosis of autism, and also can be symptoms can be accomplishing children with autism. This is pediatric autoimmune, acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome, PANS, or pediatric acute onset neuropsychiatric syndrome connected with streptococcal infections. So this is actually immune dysregulation where immune system attacking neurological cells, neural cells, in presence of different type of infections, or we will see later on some kind of outside environmental factors. What are the common symptoms? Common symptoms are symptoms that can be found in most of the children with autism as well. It's silent obsessive compulsive behavior, motor or vocal tics, mood and behavioral changes, emotional ability, anxiety and fears, sleep disturbances, urinary issues in terms of bedwetting, eating restrictions, etc. So, PANS actually is an umbrella of symptoms triggered by various factors that provoke immune reactions. Those include infections, environmental factor, metabolic disturbance, neurological issues. So in our cases, we was checking viruses. So in terms of viruses for PANS, like PANS triggers, and it was checked, the children was checked for Epstein-Barr viruses, human herpes virus 6, cytomegalovirus in saliva and urine, as well as parvo-19 in blood with PCR tests. So regarding PANDAS, the situation is more clear, let's say, because of particular biomarkers for streptococcal infection and immune and autoimmune response of streptococcal infection. This is antistreptolizine, antistreptococcal hyaluronidase, and antistreptonasa D or DNase B tests. So further investigation of if some of those findings are positive, further investigation or treatments should be established by the clinicians according to the guidelines, because for the PANDAS there is guidelines for and criteria for diagnosis and for recommendation for the treatments. Other possible PANS triggers that are not included in our study can be flu, chickenpox, mononucleosis, mycoplasma pneumonia, influenza, Lyme disease, etc. And all of those things should be taken into consideration in children with autism, especially when they have a flare. Another comorbid issues that very often comorbid issues that is linked with autism are gastrointestinal issues. So there is a lot of publications that are connecting gastrointestinal issues with children with autism, and they're facing very often with different type of symptoms like vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, fail to thrive, etc. So we will focus this time on some biomarkers, immunological and biochemical biomarkers that can indicate the presence of that they cannot be used, let's say, like a biomarker for autism, but definitely can be used like a biomarker for gastrointestinal issues and some kind of autoimmune processing behind, or inflammation. So we will go through, let's say, genetic predisposition for developing celiac disease, and it's HYLA genotyping. The second group, the second biomarker will be secretory IgE is 2. calprotectin in stool as well as histamine in stool. All of those biomarkers can lead physician to the conclusion and to see to confirm or to eliminate the possibility of some gastrointestinal issues that are happening behind the core symptoms of autism spectrum disorders. So, HiLA-TQ variants are linked linked with autism spectrum disorder, and they're actually human leukocyte antigen complexes, which include the genes for HiLA, DQ2 and DQ8. But like I told you, like I said before, they're not directly caused, but they has been linked to related immune system issues, and strongly association exists between those variants and celiac disease, which in some studies suggest maybe modestly comorbidity or morbid with autism. So that's why some of the children feel improvement if they're put on gluten-free diet. So in our cases, 76.8% of the children was positive in one of those HiLA biomarkers. So let's say the people, so if those findings are found, the physician should proceed accordingly to the say recommendation for positive cases. Secretory IgE in stool is actually very useful non-invasive test that helps diagnose and monitor gastrointestinal disorders and can evaluate immune response and guide treatment or dietary changes for conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, allergies, and food intolerance in children with autism. Actually, secretory IgE in stool is connected with pathogenesis, preventing pathogens to adhering to the intestinal epithelium and being absorbed to the bloodstream, like a defense mechanism. And it also helps regulate the gut microbiome and suppress pro-inflammatory responses. So based on the clinical studies, the connection between secretory IgE in stool and autism is inconsistent because some research find a higher level of IgE, some other find significant differences compared to their neurotypical children. In our case, 80% of the children had extremely decreased level of secretory IgE in stool, and 70% extremely elevated secretory IgE in stool. Only just 3% of children included in this study had a normal level of secretory IgE, indicated that there is strong gastrointestinal issues in those patients, and of course further investigation should be conducted. Another biomarker that have a high prevalence in children with autism, in our case we confirm that it's about 72% of the children have elevated calprotectin is stool. The both biomarkers, let's say secretory IgE and calprotectin in stool, are very useful because they are non-invasive and only stool samples should be tested to see actually if there is any kind of inflammation, gastrointestinal inflammation or some kind of gastrointestinal issues behind the autism spectrum disorder. So it's linked with abdominal pain, constipation, diarrhea, and connected with inflammatory bowel disease, very often found in children with autism, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, and infections like bacterial or gastroenteritis. And last but not least is also non-invasive test that can be conducted in order to see if there is a background, let's say, gastrointestinal issues, and to clarify the reason for gastrointestinal issues in patients with autism is histamine in stool, and actually is digestive enzyme that can come from immune cells like mast cell activation, certain gut bacteria, dietary intake, or high histamine food, or maybe some genetic predisposition with reduced activity of the diamine oxidase enzyme, which can break down histamine and can also contribute to higher level. So in our case, we found that 68% of the children with autism have elevated calprotectin in stools and need additional testing and potential places for the target therapy. Last but not least, I would like to emphasize the mitochondrial dysfunction that is very, very often observed in autism children and is accompanying autism, like behavior. And in this case, let's say, first of all, what are mitochondria? Mitochondria are small organelles that can be found in each cell in the body and are responsible for providing energy for the cell and for the all activities of the cell, and producing energy in form of adenosine triphosphate through cellular respiration. In this case, we can see there is a few biomarkers, but those are very easily found in any clinical laboratory, like markers for testing, and it's pyruvate, lactate in blood, and ammonia in blood. And I would like to go to each of them separately. Let's see what is actually, how pyruvate is getting in blood. It's pyruvate, it's like a normal product in the blood, like from energy production, cellular uptake, metabolic flexibility, glycolysis, or anaerobic metabolism. High level in blood, high level of pyruvate in blood indicate mitochondrial disorders, mitochondrial dysfunction, some dysfunction in pyruvate metabolism, insufficiency of B vitamins, or damage for vigorous exercises. And pay attention about common symptoms that are accomplishing dysregulation of those biomarkers connected with the mitochondrial dysfunction. Common symptoms include seizures with elevated pyruvate level, includes seizures that are very often found in children with autism, at least abnormal EEG level, intellectual disabilities, muscle weaknesses, poor coordination, development delay, and fatigue. All of those symptoms are very often can be found in children with autism as well. Lactate actually plays a crucial role beyond being a metabolic waste product, acting as a primary energy source for organs like heart and a brain, and precursor for gluconeogenesis and glucose synthesis in the liver and kidneys, and it's a vital signaling molecule for modulates inflammation, immune response, and cell proliferation through mechanisms like lactylation and respiratory breathing. What actually high level of lactate indicate insufficient oxygenation or cell hypoxia, severe illnesses, intense exercises, or other factors, and again pay attention about the symptoms: shortness of breath, nausea and vomiting, muscle weakness, sweating, abdominal pain, confusion, fast heart rate. So all of those symptoms are easily found with children, in children with autism. So in our study, we found that 86% of the children experienced elevated level of lactate in the blood. And regard pyruvate, 98% experienced elevated pyruvate blood level. Last but not least in this list of biomarkers for mitochondrial dysfunction are ammonia. Actually, they are products, but they are actually like a waste product from breakdown of proteins in the intestines. Under normal circumstances, the liver is processing this ammonia into urea, which is then excreted by the kidneys. In case when we have a high level of ammonia, indicate that the body isn't efficiently processing and removing the neurotoxic waste products, which can lead to the brain damage in some cases, coma, and even death. Prolonged exposure of the elevated level of ammonia in blood can actually lead to symptoms like confusion, fatigue, irritability, vomiting, headache, and loss of coordination, which can progress to seizures. In our cases, 84% of the patients we found in 88% of the patients, we found elevated level of ammonia. I would like to emphasize that in all of those three cases, especially for the mitochondria, there is a lot of guidelines and a lot of supplements on the markets for supporting mitochondria functions and oxygenation in the cells that actually improves overall clinical manifestation of the children with autism. So let's review all comorbid conditions that we was talking today in pediatrics cases of autism children, autism spectrum disorders. So actually examining all of those biomarkers, either in group of immunological inflammation, mitochondrial dysfunction, or gastrointestinal issues, can lead physicians to make additional investigations and preparing the protocols for targeted therapy, because we know that autism is diverse and each patient should be treated individually, and personalized treatment, personalized multidisciplinary treatment should be established in order to manage comorbid issues and to improve all clinical manifestation of the autism. So let's see what we found actually when we analyzed all 4 groups in children with autism. So 53 children, and that's 28%, had at least one marker with abnormal level in all 4 main groups of biomarkers. 90 children, or 48%, had at least one or more markers with abnormal level in 3 of the main groups that we were speaking today. 45 children, or 24%, had at least one or more markers with abnormal level in 2 of the main groups. We didn't observe a child with autism, already diagnosed with autism, without abnormal markers in all 4 of the main groups. This actually is lead that actually autism is not limited to the core symptoms, and comorbidities reveal widespread immune, gastrointestinal, mitochondrial, and infections involvement. Testing biomarkers like elevated cytokines, gastrointestinal markers, mitochondrial markers for the mitochondrial dysfunction, or transponders triggers can provide clinical relevance and provide early signs for comorbid conditions and guiding personalized intervention. So I'm very enthusiastic because a lot of group of leading scientists all around the world are working in topic of autism and finding the last puzzle, completing the puzzle of autism, and a lot of clinical studies are ongoing for some treatment of some comorbid issues all around the world. So I really hope that very soon we will find the missing piece, so the whole puzzle of autism spectrum disorder can be fulfilled, and finally solutions, science can bring solutions for most of the, or all, let's say, the clinical symptoms in children with people with autism. So thank you very much.